I'm here with CEO Søren Krogh Knudsen of Columbus. You just released your Q2 25 report this morning, unfortunately also following a guidance downgrade during this summer. You had around negative 4% growth in this quarter, 3% in the half year. Can you tell us a little bit about were there some businesses special hit some geographies, or was it broad-based?
Yes, there are actually some specifics to it, and there are some pretty big differences within both how the geographies and how our business lines have developed. So if we start with the business lines, the shortfall of growth is primarily within our biggest business unit, Dynamics, which has been performing formidably for I think 2 years in a row. So it's a very big engine. And it's still a very profitable engine, but we have not been able to secure enough work to drive further growth, which has led us to do a lot of internal initiatives on business development, leadership talent that we are bringing on board, etc. We still see the UK unit of Dynamics, which is big, with growth, but Denmark, which is very big and has traditionally been growing, we've sort of reached the plateau, fallen a little bit backwards. Now we need to re-energize that. And there's things we can do internally, but the market has a lot to do with it.
It is a market, yeah, because you're talking a lot about postponed decision making by your customers, and surely you are not the only one. We're hearing from the software, we're hearing it from all the IT consultants. But is it only postponement, or are you also seeing cancellations, which would of course be much worse?
Yeah, but we're actually not seeing the cancellations. So the way our business works is usually when we secure we work with very large companies, we focus a lot on delivering quality, and that drives a lot of our future pipeline. It's a lot easier to sell the second project to the same customer. So the postponements we are seeing are in two different camps. One is for the existing customers, so usually they will notify us relatively in course of our normal business. Hey, we are considering rolling out in a new country, or we've done an acquisition, we need to bring that onto our platform. And we prepare for that, we're given a start date. It's a relatively slim process where we agree on sort of how it should be done. And then typically they will inform us, hang on, we'll put this on hold for a while. We need to discuss something with the board, and then we wait. The good thing is that sometimes, we've almost sort of given up on it, and then 6 months after we're like, yes, we're ready.
Does that actually mean your what I would call an opportunity pipeline is rising while your growth is going down, meaning that you have something in the books that is cancelled, and the ones you're working on also actually maybe are opportunity, but still not decided? So can you talk a little bit about whether your opportunity pipeline maybe is growing?
It definitely means that in the opportunity pipeline, the number of entries is growing, but because we work also with the weighting, the win probability, so that is a separate aspect. But the number of projects in the pipeline is growing, and it's a little bit harder to predict when the start date is than it usually is. So we need to overbook the organization slightly more in line with an airline. That being said, then if two things are started at the same time, we still need to be ready to start. Yeah. And then if I could just continue, Michael. The good thing is that, as I said, it's very much related to Dynamics. So following a couple of years where we've been working with investing in our M3 business unit, our second largest business unit, and our commerce business unit, both of them are now back to growth. And that happens also whilst they really increase their profitability. So they're both growing, and they're both increasing their profitability levels quite substantially. And we look forward to continuing down that line. So it's really Dynamics specific, the challenge we have. In terms of geographies, countries, we see the US is really performing for us now, driving 30% growth in the quarter, mainly driven by the M3 business unit. And the UK is also still driving growth. Denmark, after many quarters of solid growth, is the one that really hurts, and where we're working on returning to growth. And then Sweden, which has actually been problematic for us for a while, is now back to flattish development, and now it's for us to see if we can get them into real growth going forward.
And looking a little bit ahead, your guidance, flattish growth now, downgraded to that, but compared to maybe minus 4% in Q3 and minus 3% for the half year, that actually indicates kind of a little bit of a pickup in the second half. Why are you comfortable with that?
Well, the things that we look at to become comfortable is first of all, we look at the stock of work that we have already secured. Yeah. We look at the pace of which we're delivering, which we express by the efficiency percentage. So how many hours available are we turning into actual customer work? Then we have the pipeline, which is the forward-looking part. So what do we expect to close, and what impact will that have on the efficiency level? So that's what gives us the confidence in the forecast for.
And I also guess, if I remember, you had tremendous growth the first half in 2024, yeah, and it started to slow a little bit down. So I guess you also get a little bit into some easier comparison.
Yes, that's true. And I would say normally we don't like to use that as any excuse, but it's just a fact that Q2 of 2025 had 2 working days less than Q2 of 2024 because of Easter, and that makes that quarter look perhaps a little bit unnecessarily weak. 62 days versus 60 days. The nature of consulting is that the cost, the salary cost remains the same, fixed, yeah, and so the last 2% may not mean so much for your top line, they mean a lot for your bottom line.
I guess a lot of this is driven by economic uncertainty and by the companies you are hired by. So, but let's try and look a little bit up in the helicopter. You're also driven by innovations. I keep reading more and more about ERP system, which is your biggest business area, agentic AI and AI in this, tearing down the silos, which I know about because I worked in those departments which were so siloed. They're tearing that down, and agentic AI seems to be able to give a lot of increase in efficiency on the ERP systems. I'm starting to see some of the AI drive some business by you. I know you were in the US also visiting your partners. Mm-hmm. So can you describe, are we still too early to really see that being a driver by you? And when do you expect to see that actually maybe starting to boost your business? Hmm?
Well, we're definitely in the early days still, but a lot of things are happening, and this is something we could use a lot of time on. But let's try to just dive into a few areas here. Before we go into agentic, it's true that the ERP sits sort of at the core of business critical systems and adjacent and connected to a lot of other sort of vertical software platforms. So one area that we're seeing, especially within our M3 business unit, is an increase in activity on our side in what is known as the warehouse management systems, where you go really into the warehouse operations part. It has always been closely linked with ERP. Now I think for that partner, we are going to see a very interesting play in that they are going to merge somewhat those platforms, and they're investing very, very heavily. Many ERP systems have always had basic functionality, but most advanced companies have had sort of a bespoke platform for that, and now we're seeing that merge.
On the Dynamics side, the Microsoft. On the
Dynamics side, we will definitely get to agentic AI, but also even before we go into that, there's also a merge within the Dynamics Microsoft, where we are seeing a merge of what we would call the business apps, the ERP system, the CRM systems, but also what's called modern workplace, which are sort of much more common platforms. There could be Teams, that could be SharePoint, that could be even Office. The whole UX, sort of how does a user engage with the applications, where we're seeing this drive towards a very integrated user experience, perhaps ultimately with sort of one interface towards all applications, which is also maybe referred to as sort of a headless scenario, where some of the previous application silos don't actually have a user interface anymore, because you serve them through That could then be Teams, Copilot, or however that's done in the future. So that's a definite strategy, I think. Interesting for us. And then the whole agentic AI, which is also hard to boil down into to a minute. But what we see is, or what we believe to say, I should say, from Microsoft is now how they actually plan to drive the transformation. How are we going to make use of this technology? Because it's not just about a capable technology. There are thousands and millions of people that needs to change ways of working. There's HR aspects, there's people aspects, organizational aspects, security aspects. And we have a much better understanding now of the way they plan to go to market. And it's only partly technology driven. It's also driven by the governance and the human side. And with agentic AI, we really mean the steps where it's not superpowering us as individuals. You probably use it as research tool, but it's autonomous. You are able to delegate fully a task, and you set some parameters around it, and you quality assure it from time to time. You can update it, but in essence, it's an autonomous agent doing work. And
I guess you touched upon it because it's such. I guess that needs a design, in the organization, and I guess that's why I don't think you get around consultants on this one because companies want it, but how are they going to design it? So is that also how you see it? That's an opportunity for you.
That's the next big driver of work for companies like us, but not just. We are fairly technology heavy as advisors, but I would also sort of say for the more classical transformation consulting. It's not just. It's really not only about technology. It's about how do you design your organization. Who's responsible for what? It's a operating model discussion. It's an HR model discussion, and it doesn't lead itself. And I believe some of the big technology players like Microsoft or Infor that we work with, they will depend on us as partners to explain this and come up with models on how to start making use of this for our customers. So we see that as a big opportunity.
But I guess, as you said, it's early stage. It's still not a dominant driver by you. Is that correct?
It's not a dominant driver of work yet. I think it's a dominant driver in terms of platform choice. The customers are very aware now that when they choose a new platform, that they need to choose a platform which is future-proof for 5-10 years. It's very much part of the sales pitch, but it's not yet a big part of our delivery. But I foresee that will come in the relatively near future.
Thank you, Søren, for taking us through your results now and also taking us a little bit up in the helicopter and what might come in the coming years.
Thank you for coming.